This podcast deals with disturbing subject matter. Listener discretion and headphones are advised.
It's time to open the door to your mind. Sit back and listen to true horror. But be careful of what you allow in. Because it's time to go through the fog.
I'm DarkHero, and this story is called Blackwater.
As I walked through the old apartment building, I let out a frustrated sigh. My brother-in-law owns the place, and he's proud to brag about how much money he's made since raising the rent here. The guy's a jerk, and yet I'm working maintenance for him. I'm not even a maintenance man. I just look up how to fix things on YouTube. He pays me well enough for me to be content, and I'm cheap enough for him to save some money. Today's job seems plenty easy, though. Little old lady in 3B needs to get her bathtub fixed. In my mind, it sounded like a clog or something. But she complained to my brother-in-law that it was something much worse, and he really threw a tantrum about it. But if it was just a clog, fine. Easy catch for me. I got to 3B and knocked on the door. After a minute or so, the door creaked open, and in front of me was an older woman. She was hunched over with long white hair, wearing a dark purple dress. Her nose was long and hooked at the tip, and she gave me a smile with a few missing teeth. I held back laughter as I imagined her flying around on a broomstick. I straightened up and introduced myself, to which she grabbed my hand to greet me. Her hands were soft and warm. For a second, I remembered my grandmother. She pulled me inside of her home and led me to the bathroom. I took quick glances around the place as I followed her. The place was filthy, with piles full of trash bags lining the walls. The air had a rotting odor within it that got stronger as I continued to walk with the lady. We reached the door, and as she opened it, I was hit with a putrid stench. The old lady seemed unfazed, but I was gagging. She turned to look at me, asking me if I was okay. I coughed a little bit more, and after a minute I managed to compose myself. I assured her I'll get things fixed, and I walked into the room. The bathroom was small. Just like the rest of the apartment, it hadn't been cleaned in ages. I looked at the bathtub, and the bottom was filled with about 6 inches of jet black water. I set my tool bag onto the floor and rummaged inside to find my drain auger. I set the tip of the long coil into the dark water where I thought the drain would be. There was no resistance, but the coil sank deeper and deeper. I began to slowly crank the auger, and the coil twisted, but the water was still motionless. Confused, I tried to retract the drain auger, but it wasn't coming up. I stood up and pulled, but there was no give. I let out another sigh, and I rolled up my left sleeve, got onto my knees beside the tub. The smell was absolutely horrendous. I cleared my mind and plunged my left arm into the dark water. My hand went through. The water felt like sludge, as if I was putting my hand through ink. It was ice cold. I pushed down and noticed that I'd submerged most of my forearm inside the water. There was no way this tub was that deep.
What the fuck?
Before I finished my words, I felt something grab my hand and yank me. My right hand grabbed the edge of the tub, and I managed to stop myself before I was pulled inside the water. Whatever had a hold of my left hand was not letting go, and it continued its attempts to pull me in. I resisted, the black water splashing up everywhere, causing beads of darkness to cover the bathroom. I pulled my arm, and I heard a pop. I let out a scream as sharp pain exploded from my left shoulder. The old lady called out, asking me if I was okay, but I continued to cry in pain. Whatever was inside this pitch black water was going to take my arm off. I managed to prop a leg onto the edge of the bathtub and pushed with it, giving me enough strength to slowly pull my arm up. I clutched at my slumped left arm with my right, pulled. A wave of relief hit me when I saw my hand, but it turned to pure terror when I saw a bony hand grasping mine. The other hand, still grasping mine, came up and emerged from the water was a arm, shoulder, then face of an old man. His face was bloated. He stared at me with empty gray eyes, his mouth open in a silent scream. I called out for help, and when I turned to look out the door, I saw the old lady staring at us in fear.
Robert? My Robert?
She muttered under her breath. The man's gaze shifted towards the lady, and he let go of my hand to reach towards her. I stumbled backwards and slammed into the bathroom sink. The lady shuffled towards the bathtub, and she called out to him.
I'm so sorry, Robert. I couldn't hear you call out to me. I couldn't hear you drain.
She slowly outstretched both of her arms. The old man grabbed them. Before I knew it, she was pulled so violently, she made a loud thud as her legs hit the edge of the tub. She didn't have a chance to scream, as she was quickly submerged inside the black water. The water bubbled, and then silence. Slowly, the water sank through the drain. And eventually, all the pitch black water disappeared.
Through the Fog is recorded and edited by Intro and outro by Katie Kemp. For more stories, go to www.throughthefog.org. We'll be back in 2 weeks, so keep your eyes on the fog.